Hello, everybody. This is Mike from Nymphs, Knots, and Nonsense. And today I'm going to be taking you through everything you need to know about a vise. So, this is my vise. It is a Renzetti Traveler. I got it maybe the year 2000, maybe 2001 in Eugene, Oregon from the Caddisfly. These aren't cheap. I think they were selling for 200 or so US dollars at the time. The price has obviously gone up because that was 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And the price has gone up. The vise itself has evolved over time, but let's look a little bit at the features and I'll tell you how this has changed and how I modified it over time. One of the basic features of what a vise is how it actually mounts to a table. And there are two choices here. One of these is this is called a pedestal. It's heavy. This thing is maybe a couple pounds. It's pretty heavy. They're usually solid metal and they're designed so that they sit on the table. And they sit on a table or a desk or something. And as you're working on the fly and wiggling stuff up here, this stays put and doesn't move. They usually have a non-stick bottom on them or something that makes it not slide. So this has a very thin little rubber thing, kind of like the bottom of a mouse pad, or in the old days, you'd have the writing surfaces that you put on top of your desk. That's kind of what this is. So it's like 0.5 mm foam rubber, just designed to keep it from sliding. This has a thumb screw right here, pretty sizable thumb screw. But what that does is if you loosen it up, you can actually pull this. This is called the stem. You can pull that stem up and out. The stem itself is replaceable. And the original stem on this only came up to about here or so because I found out that I was looking down on my vise a lot more because my tables were lower, especially the coffee table in my living room. I went and I bought a new stem here and added this longer stem. So that way I could raise the head of the vise up and I could look more straight on the fly. You don't want to look down on your fly. The other type of connector that you have, or the base that you have, is a C-clamp. And so that's kind of like a vise. So it's a clamp like this with a screw on the bottom and a thing, as you twist the screw, it comes up and it clamps on the bottom of the table. Now, those are great for portable stuff because they're lighter, but what you find is if you keep clamping onto the dinner table, the rest of your family gets really upset because even though you can put in a shim, like a piece of cardboard above the table and below the table, over time it will damage the table. You will scratch the table. You will cause some kind of damage. Keep your life at home simple. Get a pedestal. Get something on the bottom of the pedestal to keep it from scratching your table. The next feature that we have here is this thing. This is a Bobbin Cradle. And the way that it works is that I've got a little crank over here. This one's an aftermarket one. I think I got this one from Jay Stockard. It might be a Peak. It might not. I don't know. But the vise originally came with one. The reason that it's there is because this is a rotary vise. And we'll get into that. But the Bobbin Cradle, it goes up and down. So you can move it up and down. And I have a little thumb screw here. Yes, it makes it flop, but that's designed so that you can move it in and out. And what I normally do is I set it up so that it is about that far away from the head of the vise or the jaws of the vise, but it really depends on the hook size that you're using, right? You have a bigger hook, you want this standoff. You just want this maybe 1/4 inch or so, maybe like 3/4 centimeter away from the eye of the hook. And that's really important. This also comes with a little widget right here. This just has a rubber ring inside of it. And you'll see you can push it up and down. That's just a rest for the Bobbin Cradle itself. It's just an extra little point to keep that Bobbin Cradle in the right place. You still have the thumb screw here. You unloosen the thumb screw, you slide it up, and then you can tighten it up like that, but it'll still slide a little bit. So what you want is you want to use that little little rest there. It's got an O-ring, it grips pretty tightly, and then you just can let the bobbin cradle sit on it and then tighten it up. This vise is designed to be a rotary vise, and by that what I mean is you have this little handle over here, and you can move this handle. And on the Renzetti Travelers and a lot of the Renzettis, you have these thumb screws. It's kind of fun to set it up because you've got spacers, you've got clear spacers, and then you have the thumb screws themselves that clamp on the handle. Otherwise, the handle will just spin and nothing will happen. So you crank that up to make it in the position you want it, and then you can spin that, and you see it moves the jaws of the vise so that you can look at the fly from the top, you can look at it from the bottom, you can wrap this and just hold the material instead of wrapping material around the fly. It gives you a lot of flexibility. That's why most good vises today have at least, maybe not full rotary, it might be at an angle, but they give you some kind of a rotary capability because it does help out when you tie. Now, as far as the head of the vise, there's a couple things going on here. One of those is the jaws themselves. Now, the jaws for this originally, you'll see, let me flip it around so you can see it here. You've got this thing, this adjusts how narrow or how wide the jaws actually open, right? So you just twist this, you twist it counterclockwise, it opens up the jaws, you twist it clockwise, it closes the jaws, and you can see, if I flip it like this, and we go counterclockwise, you'll see the jaws open, so that way you can stick a larger hook in there. Originally, when I got this vise, it had another thumb screw. It was a bigger thumb screw. It was about this big around, and it was back here, and that's what you use. So you did the fine adjustment up front, and then with the back screw, you would put your hook in there and you would twist that to crank it down. And as this got wider back here, it squeezed up here. There's a pivot point. This rubber band here keeps the tension of the jaws on the hook. And so as you mess with the back thumb screw, it would squeeze these together, that would hold your hook. And in doing so, that's how you actually would take a hold on the hook. Well, that was very inefficient and it was kind of hard. You had to fiddle with it a little bit. So many years ago, I switched to a cam. And what you can see here, if I flip this sideways, this cam is right here. And you'll see as I move the cam, it spreads that back, spreads the far end of the jaws. And as it moves and those spread up here in the front, it gets narrower. And that's how you pinch that hook and hold the hook. So it's designed so that if I have it right, I can take a hook, I can place it here, I can move the cam jaws like this, and it will be holding onto that hook perfectly. So let's give this a try. I've got a hook here. This is a size 18, which is pretty small, right? So your normal ranges of hooks are like dry flies, it depends. A lot of times I'm tying my regular nymphs on size 12 to size 16. A lot of times, say if it's midges, they're size 18 to 26. They're pretty small, right? You can see here my thumb for size is a pretty small hook. But what I want to do in order to mount this is I want to release my jaws, give it a try here. You see, I get pressure here, which is definitely too tight. So I want to back off the cam, unscrew this, that loosens up the jaws, place the hook back in, and you'll see where I bite in the hook. You don't want it too close to the end, especially if you have a bigger hook, because it will actually bend the metal right there in the tip of the jaw, and then you'll have to get a new jaw. So what I want is, I want to be able to place that in there, keep it horizontal, and then I want it so that when I push the cam all the way up to here, it holds that hook, okay? And that's pretty good. You should be able to take your fingernail and a little bit of ASMR there. It should go twing, twing, and not pull out when you whack it with your fingernail. From the Jaws angle, what it looks like is my hook. This will be fun because I'm all like all fingers here. Place the hook and like that, and like that. And from the back side, what we want to do is we adjust this. So we adjust this screw right here. Adjust that. Probably something like that. Then this thing is about right, if not a little bit on the loose side. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a twist here. Place that. And that's doing pretty well. Okay. And then give it the twang, twang. I've got that hook probably a little bit too far back, so I'm going to take that like that, boom, and like that, and that's how you seat it. These jaws are interchangeable. There's just a simple screw here. You can undo the screw, you can change the jaws. The original jaws that came with the vise look like this. They're a lot wider up and down or fatter. These jaws are actually midge jaws. So if you're tying flies routinely that are size 12 or smaller, it will help you out a lot to get a pair of midge jaws and start using them. I read it in a book a long time ago. Switch to midge jaws. I love these things. And that's most of the time what is on my vise. I will switch back to the regular jaws or even saltwater jaws, which are bigger, in order to tie bigger flies. I do have a video on how to change the jaws. I will give it to you right here as a card. You can see that it's popped up and you can go watch how to change out the jaws on your vise. There is one last thing that I want to talk about that I've modified my vise with, and that is this thing right here, which probably looks pretty funky on video. If you don't know what it is that you're looking at, I'll move my vise this way. That is a material spring. So it's got this little plastic flat piece. Don't worry too much about that. But then over the top of it, it has a spring. It's just like a big slinky, right? Or a small slinky, actually. It's a big spring. And it clips on both sides of this plastic on the bottom. And then the plastic itself has a little, it's got a little collar that just snaps right over the stem. The idea behind this spring is that it holds materials. So if you tie stuff into the hook and you are there tying and you're wrapping over here, you can actually take this material, you can tie it into your fly. Get a little bit extra here. You tie it into your fly, and then you can just tuck it in that material clip to keep it out of the way while you're working on the rest of the fly. That way that material doesn't get in your way, doesn't cause a problem. And that's my really deep dive on vises. What are the different components? What features do they have? And how to use them. We'll revisit this throughout the course of the series as I go through and demonstrate particular techniques or tie flies. I'll let you know a little bit of how I'm adjusting the vise, what kind of changes I'm making, and how I'm actually using the vise. Until then, I'll see you in the next video of this series.